Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Tommy Gilmore with Noise Over Digital Marketing, and this is another episode of Wingin It. If this is your first time here, every week I'm talking to a different business, and today I'm super excited. We got a wealth of knowledge here. We got JG Anderson with Forge Contractors. JG, thanks so much for your time, man. I'm super excited about today.
Appreciate you having me on. This is going to be exciting. I've been following along a little bit, and I like what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Yeah. All right, JG, I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about your journey through the private or through private all the way into public. You've got a cool background. We'll talk about that in a minute. But more importantly, we're going to talk about some leadership, how to step up, how to build a strong business, and really seizing opportunities when they come. So I'm excited to chat with you today.
Absolutely.
So tell people a little bit about your background, how you got started, and how you got landed in this opportunity with Forge.
So I was born and raised in North Ogden. Mom's a school teacher. My dad was in social services. In 2005, I ended up in Chicago, living out there and working in healthcare developments on the operations sides. That led into developing new healthcare facilities. And in 2008, at 28 years old, I opened my first facility in Bloomingdale, Illinois. And I was the operational side of it. We would set up the operation, get the building functioning and profitable. So I spent about 10 years in Chicago cutting my teeth in development, healthcare. I got really disillusioned with corporate America at a certain point, and so I needed a break. So I took the money that I had saved from my corporate America job and I opened a store. Retail was interesting. It's a hard business, but it teaches you very quickly how to sell. It teaches you quickly how money works, the give and take of it, and the supply and demand. So in 2016, I decided that I wanted to come back to Utah. And so my wife and I moved back to Utah. And when I moved back here, I was puttering around trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I ended up working on a roofing supply yard for $17 an hour. And my job was basically to load these shingle bundles onto pallets, and then we would go deliver these shingles. And it was literally the hardest work I have ever done in my life. It really tested me from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental toughness standpoint. And what happened while that was going on was I started seeing how much construction was going on in the state of Utah. I had been gone for 10 years, so I had no idea what was really going on out here. And I started seeing the volume of people coming into this supply house to get just roofing supplies, and it kind of struck something in me. So I started digging around, and I found this guy who needed somebody to work on. He had a handyman business. He needed somebody to go out there and kind of sell his handyman business and bid jobs for him. And so I hopped on, and I didn't have a lot of guidance with this guy. It was just kind of like, here, go find jobs. And so I started teaching myself how to bid jobs. And I do a lot of internet searching and a lot of just self-research. And I taught myself how to bid these jobs. And long story short, this guy didn't end up being what it was supposed to be. So I left. And when I left, I went and got my own handyman license, and then worked under a handyman license for a couple of years. And then I went and got a general contractor license. When I hit the general contractor side of things, it opened up a whole new world to me. I was in residential construction. I started with little carpentry jobs. By the time I downsized my operation in residential, we were building 8,000 to 10,000 square foot custom homes, and I had about 30 framers that worked with me. So once I decided to downsize during COVID, I was introduced to commercial construction. Um, I had no clue that commercial construction was what it was. So I ended up with a government contracting company and worked government contracts for about 6 or 8 months. And what I saw was um, the processes and the nuances of commercial construction compared to residential construction. But I also found out that it was a lot the same. So I took that time with that government contract company and I got all my certifications. I got all of my, everything that I needed to, technically be in the field as a commercial builder. And then about 5 years, 4.5, 5 years ago, I was given an opportunity with Forge Contractors to do a startup with them. They were a startup company. They were about 8 to 9 months old, and they needed a superintendent to come and run their jobs. And for anyone who's unfamiliar with a superintendent, what we do, we are the guy who is in the field, who is actually building the building. We are responsible for all of the trades from concrete to roof. It is our job to make sure that this building gets put in the ground and then brought up out of the ground. So I was given that opportunity, and then a couple of years ago, I was given another opportunity with Forge Contractors to become a percentage owner. It is not a huge percentage. I am not rich by any way, shape, or form, but definitely I was given that opportunity, and so now I'm with Forge Contractors, and we do anywhere from $40 to $50 million a year in revenues over the last about 5 years. And then this year we're on target to probably do about maybe 80-ish. We had a really successful first of the year. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. And it's good. It's really good. I'm still learning a lot and having the opportunity to really make some good effect with the way I manage and lead people. So it's a good spot for me to be.
That's awesome. Well, I love your story a lot, JG, because one, it mirrors my own in a little way, in that you and I both made a big pivot, right? Like you're in healthcare development, you're kind of in this totally different world. I come from my degrees in criminal justice. And if you told me in 2017 when I graduated college, oh yeah, you'll start your own marketing company, I'd be like, how did I get there?
Yeah, I changed my entire career at 35 years old.
Yeah.
I was born and raised with the understanding that college was the way to do things. I'm from that generation where our high school counselors pounded college into our brains, and you drive down the road and, oh, you don't want to be that guy working on the side of the road. He should have gone to college. I come from that generation, and to go at 35 years old and do completely opposite of what had been pounded into my head for years and years and years, but then finding out that these guys that are in dirty clothes make great money. It was such an eye-opening experience.
Well, and while your job is safe and secure, you've got, like you said, people that they went to college, they did it, quote unquote, the right way. And now AI is laying off them or a majority of their workforce because, they went into a technology field, or they went into these fields where, unfortunately, AI is able to do a lot of the work that they do.
Yeah, I tell these guys all the time, AI can't use a shovel.
Not yet, anyway, right?
Yeah, not yet.
Well, I want to, one part of your story that really sticks out to me is, you go from corporate America, you're probably making insane amounts of money. You hate it. And then you go into retail. It sounds like you bounce around a little bit, and you land at this roofing supply store making $17 an hour. Like, talk to me about like the humility that it took. Like, what's your mindset to go from whatever your salary was before to 17 an hour?
So humbling. The most humbling experience I've ever had in my life. I was, and I don't know how much of this you want to put into it, but I been clean for 10 years. I was a 17-year addict. And at that time, I had just gotten clean and I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And so the only thing that I knew, like I had been broken down so bad that the only thing that I really understood was like I just needed to go to work. Like I didn't know how or what, or I just needed to go to work. And my brother-in-law was the boss on this yard. And he's like, hey, I got this spot. I can get you in there. Like it doesn't pay anything, but we got lots of hours, and I was physically out of shape from, too many years of partying. And I was mentally not doing awesome because I was cleaning my life up, and so I agreed. And I remember when that went on, the boss for the actual yard who was hiring people, I remember calling him and telling him like, I really need this job. I really, really need this job. And to go from the corporate America thing to talking to this man who was in some of the same positions I was in prior and basically begging for a $17 an hour job was very incredibly humbling. And so I started that job, and I started in like June or July, which is hottest time in Utah, And I think the first day I started that job, I made it until about 2:00 in the afternoon, and I'm throwing up, like just done, like done. And luckily, my brother-in-law just is a stud, and he would, call me up like, hey, you got this. Like, you just got to get through the first few weeks. Your body will adjust, yada, yada, yada. And I did, man. Like I got through it. And then my body got hardened, and my mind became clearer from just working hard, like just physically working hard every single day. And then you'd get that paycheck that was small, man.
Not what you're used to getting from working a lot harder.
And you would put in so much of your body into it, and and so it was a humbling experience, but at the same time, it was exactly what I needed, because what I do now is directly because of what I was doing then.
Yeah.
I understand it from the very, very bottom of the world I am in now. I understand it from the shovel up,
Yeah.
And I think as business owners and leaders, we mess that up a lot. And we sit, we'll get ourselves in these ivory tower positions where we're starting to make these decisions in a vacuum, because we forget that the low guy on the totem pole is the one that's actually making us the money.
Mm-hmm.
And if the low guy on the totem pole is messing up, well, you didn't train him well enough.
Yeah.
You didn't do your part to train, and so I think we forget that piece a lot as business leaders. We get almost just how do I say this? We get so involved in our own everyday stuff of chasing the money, chasing the jobs, customer expectations, that we forget that guy, in my case, who's swinging that hammer every day, if he doesn't show up, nobody's making money. Nobody's making
money. Show up doesn't have to mean physically, right? Show up can also mean mentally. They have to at least tolerate the work that they do. They don't have to love it all the time, but they should take some pride in the work. Mm-hmm. Because then it's like, all right, like they're happy enough, they're doing a good job, they're taking care of my customer. So for me as a leader, I always view my job is to take care of my people, because then my people take care of my clients. I don't know how you feel about that.
That's absolutely true. I mean, most of the time when we build a building, everybody that shows up to my job is new to me. They're for the most part, they're strangers. We'll cross paths, throughout jobs or whatever. But for the most part, everyone who shows up initially to my job is a stranger. And my respect has to be earned with these people. Like, it is not automatically given in these worlds. And I think sometimes we forget that Respect is an earned thing. Like, it is not given. And if you think that you're supposed to be respected just because you own the business, or you're the owner of the business, or you're the leader of the business, you have sorely mistaken yourself. That respect comes from true, genuine human interaction, and showing these people who work for you and who you manage that, hey, I'm no better than scraping that shovel up just like you. I'm not asking you to do anything that I haven't done multiple times, you know? Like, that's a huge mistake I see people make in business. And I'm no business guru. Like, I'm not this huge business guy who's loaded and everything else. You know, I'm just a blue collar guy who kind of figured out how to do it. You know, like, I'm not, there's nothing special about me. I just know how to build buildings, and building buildings came with being able to affect people in a positive way. There's no way I can build a multi-million-dollar building without the people who are coming here every single day.
Yeah. It's not just JG, building a building. It's, you're at the helm of the team that's in charge of doing it.
Correct. And I mean, I think in a lot of times in business, what I see, and, I deal with subcontractors daily in their businesses. And so I see a lot of different dynamics in these small businesses. I mean, we have big multi-million-dollar guys that do jobs for us, and then we kind of have littler guys that do jobs for us. And so I get to witness a lot of these dynamics between employee and boss in these subcontractor companies, and it's really eye-opening to witness how some of this goes down, because some of these guys are, they come from the old school where it's, you do it my way, and that's the only way to do it. And don't ask questions, because you don't know. You're younger than me, and you don't have as much experience. Don't ask questions, And then I see these companies who their employees are crazy involved with the decision making, and they're empowering these people to take ownership in what they're doing and take pride. And every single time it's the same thing. The guys that are pushing it the old school way, who demand that respect instead of earning the respect, their guys are disillusioned, and they're just showing up to get their money every day. The companies who I'm working with, their employees are involved, and their employees are actually making decisions and can make independent decisions, like be autonomous. Those are the ones that are being successful. Those are the ones I don't ever have any operational issues with. I don't ever have any morale issues with, but you can tell, like, as soon as you start working with these people and their dynamic, you can tell which way it is, right? Like, by the guys that come out here.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell by showing up to the job site pretty quick what the dynamic looks like, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And it reflects directly in the quality of employee that they have and the quality of work that they do. It's a direct reflection, and it correlates every single time. Like, there's no in between.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So this might be something that the people that are watching might wonder, or, might be of value to them. So, you're looking at multi-million-dollar projects. You don't get to 80 million this year by, $5,000 handyman jobs. You're looking at big commercial buildings that require high level of skill, high level of output, things like that. Like, when you're sifting through your different bids and your different subcontractors and things like that, like, what are some red flags that you're looking at when you're looking to bring on these different subcontractors that are going to be under the superintendent?
So commercial construction is funny. We always go low bid. That's how. So we get, with the exception of a few situations, it's generally a low bid situation. No matter what commercial construction company, it's usually low bid, right? That's how we get jobs, is we come in lower than everybody else. So what we do additionally at Forge is we interview these companies. So if they're low bid and they're not somebody who has a history with us, we actually have an interview process with them. And I sit in that interview process, and some of the things that I look for when we're going through this is the way that they present when they come to sit down, right? Like, I've had some guys that come in and they look like they just came off the job site, hats on backwards, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm judging it, and I'm a blue collar guy, and I'm still judging that. Like, you're coming here to try to land hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in contract. Like, put a collared shirt on, comb your hair, like, look presentable, so that's one. Another thing that I like to ask when we are trying to have these new subcontractors come in is how they motivate their employees. Like, what is your guys' employee motivation program, right? Like, do you bonus them? Do they have a commission structure set up? I like to know what that is, because at the end of the day, no matter what business you are in, we all come to work for one reason, and that's money. And if anybody tries to tell you different, they are lying to you. We have all sorts of businesses and industries that prey upon the intrinsic motivations of good people. Oh, well, my wife's in healthcare. And this drives me crazy all the time is, oh, well, you get to take care of these people, and it'll make you feel so good, and you'll affect the world. And I don't care. We come to work for money. I am not coming to work unless I am getting paid. And I think that's something that when I am asking these subcontractors, how do you motivate your employees? That's one thing that I look for, is I want to know if these guys are pumping up their guys' pockets, because we're motivated by that. In construction, we are highly motivated by money and bonuses, right? And so I asked some of those things. I like to find out what their quality assurance type stuff is, to try to get a feel if they're gonna just put somebody on the job and just let them go, or if they're gonna have a little bit of management, somebody kind of looking over to make sure things, So I'm looking for mostly how they present, because how that person interviewing presents is a direct reflection of probably how that business is going to run, right? There is some exceptions. There's definitely some exceptions. And like I said, number two, how they motivate their employees. Because at the end of the day, we can teach skills. We can teach somebody how to do something, right? Like, I can teach somebody how to build a building, but I can't teach them how to be ambitious. I can't teach them how to be self-motivated. I can't teach them how to be honest. And, I can't teach them all that stuff. That's intrinsic stuff that either comes with you, or you learn it, or you can't teach that, right? So I am looking for some of those things when we get involved with these subcontractors. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, there's been some that have absolutely backfired on us, that I would have thought would have been great, but they have absolutely backfired on us, and it's just the nature of the game.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious if there's one that sticks out in your mind, for especially like the employee motivation. I think that's something that a lot of people want to do. If you're a small business owner, you want to retain good talent, you want to keep them on, you don't want somebody else to come and poach them. But you're like, I can't always pay them as much as I want, because I own a small business. Like, I've got all these expenses I'm trying to balance. Cash flow is crazy in the construction industry. One day you got 250 grand in your bank account, and the next day you're negative because you just paid everybody.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
like, what have you heard that you were like, oh, that's a cool idea?
Let me tell you my experience, because this is really powerful to me, and it's been a big part of my journey with construction and business with Forge Contractors. So our owner, when we initially started, we had an equity partner who basically financed us to get going. A couple years after we got going, our majority owner, he bought out our equity partner, and we were doing really well. We were making good money. Our bonuses looked nice. Everything was going well. So our majority owner bought out the equity partner. And at that time, our majority owner owned 100% of Forge Contractors. And when that happened, I hadn't expected anything to come for me, right? Like it just was, I've been through business acquisitions and buyouts and healthcare. And so it was just kind of another business transaction, right? I was just happy to still be working, making good money.
You were happy not to be on the chopping block as a
Yeah,
result.
yeah. I was just content with that. Well, our owner, he made it possible for a handful of us who started the business with him to invest into Forge Contractors. But beyond that, he made our investment possible with us not having to have any money come out of our pockets. So what that did was that bought my loyalty, right? I was pretty damn loyal before because they've been really good to me, and they let me just do my thing and manage how I manage, and we get things done, right? But when that happened, what that showed me was that my owner at Forge Contract, our majority owner, was not fully in this just for financial reasons. If he was going to be into this fully financially, there'd be no reason to part with any of his percentages, right? But the other side of that was that made me a little bit more invested, right? If I have some ownership in this, I'm looking at things a little bit different, because at the end of the year, my pockets are affected by this. My bonus is affected. My my ownership percentages are affected. Everything's affected by this. So if I am making reckless decisions from a financial standpoint, or even from anything standpoint, that directly affects my pockets at the end of the year, right? And
absolutely, yeah.
The other guys who work in Forge Contractors who may not have ownership, they affect my pockets as well. So it behooves me to offer some leadership and some guidance and some mentorship for the other people in the company who may not have as much experience, who may not have been through what I've been through. It behooves me to do that, because they make money too, right? And if they stop making reckless decisions, we're all making money.
Yeah.
So
well, and I like the idea of, it sounds like you had to shift your mindset a little bit, and maybe this was a progressive shift, but you've had to shift from, as an employee, the one thing that you're focused on, like you said, is, am I making money, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, I get my paycheck. Maybe I take pride in my work, maybe I don't, whatever. If you don't, you shouldn't be there. But
right.
like, at the end of the day, it's about the money, right?
Right.
And so you had to shift that from, oh, it's about my money, to, oh, it's about our money, like a collective we within the company, whether they're an owner, whether they're the guy swinging the hammer at the very bottom.
Yes.
You had to shift it to think, are we all making money?
Yes.
And I think that's where the ownership mindset becomes.
That's my number one question when I get on meetings with our accountants. How much are we making? That's what I want to know. Like, I have enough ownership investment that I want to know how I'm going to look at the end of the year. It's worth knowing for me, because I have some investment in it, and I have some control over how much money we're going to make. Right now there's probably four or five jobs going on, from all different cost areas, from little TIs up to big buildings. And I want to know how much we're making, because all of those affect me.
Mm-hmm.
How those run, all of those affect me. If we get nailed up on another job by a OSHA violation or something where we end up getting, big, huge fine, that affects me. So do it right. Be safe, do things right, do it, so we don't have to lose this money. I have some investment in this now.
Yeah.
And I got to say, before that happened, I still ran things like I still ran jobs like it was my own business. just because that's how I work, right? But now that there's actually a financial piece to this, it's different. I'm not letting things slide that I might have let slide before, right? Like maybe we'll just fix that later. No, we're not going to fix that later. We're going to do it right now because later is going to cost me more money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So how do you now, as you know, a part owner, as somebody with that kind of ownership mindset, how do you help imbue that same thought process or that same motivation in somebody that maybe doesn't have the same stake in the company? What sorts of things are you doing to do that?
Here's the thing is I am in a unique situation. And I'm very well aware of it. The guy that shows up to my job site every day to work, he has zero investment or equity or anything else in Forge Contractors. He comes here to work every day for probably 25, 30 bucks an hour and breaks his back, breaks his body, and then goes home, right? And tries to struggle to make bills and make groceries and make everything else happen, right? How do we get those guys to do what we need them to do? That's the real question, right? Because it's easy for somebody like me. Yeah, I'm just going to throw money at you, and then we'll know we know that you're going to do what you're going to do, right? And I think if I had to, I was actually thinking about this before we got on, and I think if I had to give a couple ways to get these guys to do what I need them to do to be effective and to get these things done that I need to get done. I think the number one is understanding that these are real people. These are not robots. These aren't, bottom of the barrel. These aren't those people. These are real people with real problems and real families and children and sisters and brothers and people who love them and people who rely on them, and need them around. And so I think that acknowledging that these are real people who a lot of times can be in some sort of a struggle is the number one thing that I've been able to apply, because I'm going to be managing my 45-year-old Hispanic carpenter differently than I'm going to be managing my 26-year-old plumbing foreman who's an absolute stud and at some way at 26 started running crews. Like, that's two different management styles, right? But at the end of the day, they both are real people. They just have different stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right. So I think number one, like I said, acknowledging people. And then number two in this industry, in the construction industry, is acknowledging that we're all in it together, right? Like, the weather breaks open and it's cold and it's horrible and whatever else. We're all in this together. Like, this sucks really bad right now, but I'm going to work shoulder to shoulder with you guys, and I'm going to stay out here with you guys because I know how bad this sucks, right? So being able to work shoulder to shoulder with somebody, whether it's in construction or whether you have a retail store or whatever it is, that brings humanness to you. If as leaders, we just sit up in our ivory towers all the time, we become these like weird, nobody knows us. And when we make a decision or talk, it's all awkward and strange, right? Like that's common. That's very common. So yeah, I think, like I said, realizing these are real people and being willing to work shoulder to shoulder is probably two of the things that help me motivate the best. Like,
I love it.
We put in big hours, big hours. And there's times that I'm just here because it's what we got to do. And these guys need to know I'm willing to be in it just like you.
Yeah. No, and I think that speaks volumes for not only you as, the person, but also the company that you're with, because leadership happens very, very clearly from the top down. It sounds like the majority owner of the company emphasizes good leadership. And so, of course, because it's emphasized and demonstrated and modeled on his end, it comes through for you. It comes through for all of those things that happen as a result.
It is, and I am admittedly a very hard person to lead. I am a hard person to lead, and I have a hard time being led, because I'm naturally a leader. I just have that personality, right? So to be able to have somebody like our majority owner, basically prove to me, right, that he's in it to win it. Like he's in it for all of us. That was really hard to step back and be like, okay, like you're not fully running the show anymore. You are a cog in a wheel. But if you just do a really good job at your cog in the wheel and everyone else does a good job too, this wheel will just run through brick walls. And that was something that was hard for me when I decided to join into commercial construction and start working on a team. Was like, I'm not in charge of everything anymore. But what it also did was it allowed me to be good at the things that I'm good at, which was building buildings. No more chasing money. You owe me this money. I need no more chasing jobs. Like it allowed me to be good at what I'm good at. So it was a real blessing.
No, I love the point. I think that leadership is such an important part of, when you're an entrepreneur, trying to view things through the lens of, can I be a good leader? Am I being a good leader? Those things are so important. So this is obviously a big topic for sure.
Yeah. The other thing is, when your operation is failing, it's your fault. I think a lot of times leaders have such a ability to look at all these external factors of why things are failing or why things are going sideways. And at the end of the day, the dysfunction in the operation because the leader doesn't have anything to do with the people working in there. You probably didn't train them good enough. So dysfunction as a leader,
Yeah. I heard a quote from somebody recently that talked about the way they put it. I've heard of extreme ownership. I've read that book. I think it's great.
Yeah.
It was a similar lens, but they talked about co-creation and that we as a leader, we co-create everything in our environment. Yeah. So, the question that, he was an entrepreneur and he would ask even his guys, they would come to him as the boss with problems and he'd be like, well, but how did you co-create this?
Yeah.
What sort of failure on your part can you own and learn from and enhance? You're not swinging the hammer. You're not doing the day-to-day piece maybe right there, but how did you co-create it? And what part can you learn and make better as a result of what happened?
Well, and solution-based conversations, this went bad. How do we fix it? Like, we don't need to dwell on what happened. We all know it's screwed up. We all know that part. But what's the solution? That's how you co-create with people is what's the solution? Because as humans, we want resolution to things, right? It's just how we're programmed. We don't want things undone or loose ends out there. So solution-based conversations on everything you do. Here's my problem. Well, what's your solution? You tell me what the solution is. Because if we're as leaders, if we're not making decisions from the trenches, which means asking our people, then we're failing our operation. We're failing our business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been, JJ, this has been super awesome. Really, really appreciate your time. The last question I like to ask is about the best piece of business advice you've ever been given. And this can be, from a mentor, this can be, read it in a podcast, but I'd love to hear what it was, how you implemented it, and how it changed your business.
Don't be too good for the shovel. That is some of the best advice I've ever been given by an old timer. When I was in healthcare, I started from the bottom and worked my way up, and I felt that way, but I had never been able to put words on it until somebody told me that. And it makes a lot of sense. And it goes back to what I was saying is working shoulder to shoulder with these people out there that are actually making you the money. It's don't be too good for that bottom piece, because that's really the person who's the foundation of your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's great advice. And especially in your industry where, I've got soft hands. I'll admit it. I am not a swing the hammer kind of person, but, I'd imagine it's even worse once you get to that point in your life where you're like, hey, look, I've done this for a while. I know what I'm doing. I don't want to do it. Maybe I'm a little older, whatever. Like, it's harder on your body. Those things happen. I'd imagine it's really easy to say, well, I'm done swinging a hammer. I'm done picking up the shovel. But I think, like you said, it shows leadership. It shows that quality of, look, like, we're in this together. I'm not beyond this, because what I want is what's best for our client, and what's best for our client is this getting done right.
Yeah, that's what pays the bills.
Yeah, absolutely. JG, this has been super awesome. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just thank you. I appreciate you having me on. This is a really cool experience.
No, and I thank you for your time. Really, I mean, you have a ton of great insights into leadership, into, going through struggle, all those things. We didn't even really touch the struggle part, but it's clear to me that, you know how to work hard, you know how to get your head right through struggle, all of those things that are so important for an entrepreneur to wing it a little less.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Tommy. I'll look forward to seeing this out and edited.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely put that together. But thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Winging It. Hopefully by watching, you feel like you're going to wing it just a little less in your business now.